Today on the pod, we've got a business that sells red light therapy. Not sure what that is? Nope, me neither. But we're going to find out because this is a business that, go back a few years ago, was doing really, really well. And in the business owner's own words, they were in a blue ocean with very little competition. But now the market has been flooded and they have got some real marketing challenges that they need our help. It's going to be a good conversation. Let's get into it. Welcome to Grow with Evergreen, the podcast designed to help you grow your business by providing practical insights into all things paid media, creative and digital strategy. Every episode, we help home, garden and lifestyle brands with their growth challenges by delving into their business, dissecting what they're doing and defining a digital growth strategy they can take and deploy into their business. Let's get into it. Right, so welcome back, beautiful people. Thank you so much for joining me on the Grow with Evergreen pod. We are having so much fun speaking to so many different brands and having a really good time. Would you agree, Darren?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We've been having a wonderful time.
Haven't we just? A mix of businesses, all sorts of different sectors and industries. And I've got to confess, I don't know what red light therapy really is. Do you?
No, neither do I.
We're going to have to find out.
That's going to be afraid to ask.
A little bit. That's going to have to be the first question is, frankly, what is it? And what do you use it for? So I had a quick look on their website before we brought our guest on, and I have to confess I'm not really any the wiser.
Really?
We're gonna find out firstly what it is, and then we're gonna get into these marketing challenges. I want to set the scene for you in terms of this business. They're doing about 500,000 turnover, so relatively small. They were bigger, but they have shrunk because, as I said, that blue ocean they were swimming in, having a wonderful time, has become a little bit smaller. Maybe the ocean has shrunk a little bit, and they're having some marketing challenges.
Maybe now it's a red ocean.
It could be. I like it. So they are in terms of their marketing, their challenges really is just how to get that ROI. What should they be doing? How should they be approaching it? I think in order for me to be able to give some suggestions, I'm going to have to find a lot of information out in terms of what they're doing. They have mentioned they're doing Meta and Google, spending about 6K on their marketing, and they want to scale it up. So I think, and then they've got some questions for us in terms of what do we think, and it's quite a good one. They want to know what we would recommend when it comes to a funnel structure. So that's going to be fun. And then a great question, which I know so many people are going to be able to relate to this, is how do you sell high ticket value items to a cold audience? And if you just think about how often we are doing that, or for our brands are doing that, if you're selling home improvements, kitchens, bathrooms, hot tubs, so many products. These are thousands, a lot of the time, and you're selling to seemingly a cold audience. How do you do that? I've got some ideas on that. And what else can I tell you? And then, there's a whole bunch of other stuff which we're going to get into. But I think the first thing we need to do is get Brian on and frankly ask him what red light therapy is. So let's do that. Brian, my friend, are you there?
Yes, guys. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. Welcome to the Grow with Evergreen pod. Thank you so much for joining us. So come on then, put us out of our misery. What is red light therapy?
And do we need it?
And quite. Yeah, exactly. Do we need it? What is it?
Well, look, what kind of salesman would I be if I told you that you didn't need it, eh?
So we know we need it. Now we need to know what it is. What is it?
Red light therapy is actually a very old therapy. It's been around for, at least 100 years. But what's recently giving it a new breath of life is that the technology itself has been upgraded and made a lot cheaper. So it's now a lot more affordable for everyone to use in their homes. So what red light therapy is, it basically uses two types of very specific wavelengths of light, which are very, very good for the human body. Now, these wavelengths of light also come from the sun, in fact. It's part of what makes you feel so good when you spend a sunny day out in the park. You feel amazing. Or, living in the Northern Hemisphere, when you go on holiday to a warm country, you just feel fantastic. And it's due to the sun, of course, is one of the main reasons, but it's specifically due to the red and infrared light that comes from the sun. So what red light therapy does is we use those exact same kinds of light, the red and infrared light, and we put it into devices of all different shapes and sizes that you can use in your home, in your office, in your car, in your gym, in your clinic, and you get some pretty incredible benefits. Do you want me to talk a little bit about what it does to the body?
I'm starting to see why this would sell well in the UK.
Oh yeah.
With the
What do
lack
you mean?
of sun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sign us up. We're sold. We need some sun. No, okay,
Exactly.
yeah, go for it. Yeah, so go on. Just give us a quick snapshot then. What is the benefits? What if I was to use these things? What am I
Yeah,
getting?
so what it does is what they discovered about 150 years ago actually was that the cells of our body, so our bodies are made up of cells, and all these cells have something called mitochondria, and mitochondria is what creates cellular energy. So it takes in glucose or fat and oxygen and burns it and releases cellular energy that gives the little cell energy, which gives the tissue energy, which eventually gives your whole body energy, and it's what makes you a human being. And what they discovered is that the mitochondria are actually photosensitive, which means they can absorb some kinds of light. And you
Right.
guessed it, the kinds of light that these mitochondria can absorb is red and infrared light. So this light
Okay.
goes into your body, it goes into your cells. Your cells absorb this light and actually use it as an extra kind of fuel to create even more cellular energy. So when your cells have more cellular energy and your tissues have more energy, everything tends to work better and get
Yep.
better.
Yep. There you go. There you
Makes
go.
sense?
See,
Wow.
and do you know what? It is a product that goes in the home and garden. So Brian does qualify to come on the pod.
He does,
because
he
we're very
does.
strict that you only come on the pod if you're a home garden
It was
lifestyle
a
brand.
risk, but it paid off.
It was, but it's a product you're using in your home, and I would argue it fits in nicely into the lifestyle.
Yeah,
Tick,
And
Brian, you can
no,
stay. You can stay on the
In a
episode.
healthy lifestyle.
no
Exactly. Yeah.
jokes, no jokes. A lot of our clients are gardeners, and they come
Oh,
in from
wow.
being on their hands and knees all day, and their backs are sore. So they'll
Yeah.
use our products on their back to help them get relief from the pain and the muscle
Mm.
tightness and
To
all
be
that.
fair, I could do with that most Friday
Yeah,
afternoons
same.
There you go.
after work, sitting there. Right, I want to get into these marketing challenges because, actually, what I want to do is understand the business because you sort of, I alluded to it. We spoke briefly before we came on that the business obviously shrunk a little bit. So just paint a little bit of a picture for us. Go back, a few years. What were we doing? What happened? Where are we today? Just sort of set the
Yeah.
scene for us.
Yeah, look, I am, what you would call, a new business owner, because before I started this business, I was a carpenter. I was working on building sites. The only thing I used the internet for was, music and Netflix. So I knew nothing about marketing. I knew nothing about selling and copywriting and, how to engage people. But then I stumbled across red light therapy and I absolutely fell in love with it because it really changed my life. But you couldn't buy it in the UK.
Right.
So after engaging with some electrical engineers and learning about, exactly how to make this red and infrared light in a product that you can use in your home, I eventually built, well, myself and my partner, we built 4 or 5 little devices for us and our circle of friends, and everybody loved them. They worked so well for everybody. All the benefits that we'd been reading about seemed to be coming true for this small group of people. So we thought, hang on, you can't buy this in the UK. So why don't we try sell it? So that's what we did. We started a little Instagram page and started a little website and made a little logo on Canva, all those things you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And when
And
was that? Roughly when was that?
that
What
was
year would that have been?
2017.
Okay.
And we started selling immediately because we had a captured market. We had a small niche of people. It was the biohackers, what they call biohackers. And they were already looking for red light therapy, but you couldn't find it until we came about. And so we immediately had a market. And, looking back, even though we were, terrible at marketing, we were still selling because there
Sure.
simply
Yeah. Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
any,
You've got a
any
hungry
choice.
audience. You're going to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that worked really well for the first 5 years. And, I started learning more about marketing and, hired business mentors. And the problem is that I hired a lot of people that I thought were experts. So I've
Right.
hired multiple agencies before to run social media, to run, my email campaigns, to run my Google stuff, to run my Facebook stuff. And slowly but surely, they all just started failing. I started realizing like they don't actually know what they're doing. They're doing bare minimum to tick the boxes. And it was just never very cohesive. So we went through a couple of agencies, and all the time I was, learning myself. I've done a lot of courses, I've worked with a lot of mentors, and learned a hell of a lot about a hell of a lot. And now I'm able to spot when things aren't working well. I don't necessarily have the expertise to fix them, but I can spot
Sure.
it.
Yeah. Makes
So
sense.
fast forward 5 years, and maybe a little bit less than that. But anyway, the niche of red light therapy started growing, and it grew massively, and it's starting to really boom now. Like after this conversation, you're going to start seeing red light therapy everywhere. It's in magazines. It's in we've been featured in magazines and newspapers and countless other podcasts, and a lot of podcasts are talking about red light therapy. So it's really really booming, which means
Right.
the market has been flooded with sellers,
Sure.
and which means we've lost market share.
Okay.
And there's a handful of things which I've been able to pinpoint, and now it's the challenge of, okay, well, which one do we invest in first to start bringing in more money to invest in
Yep.
the others.
Fine. So what are those things that you've identified? What are the catalysts for why you've lost market share?
Okay, so we had a Facebook tracking problem. So for a long time, I didn't realize that our Facebook ads were not being attributed properly, which means I didn't know
Okay.
where to spend budget, which meant I hired two different sets of people to try and fix it. Both claimed they fix it, but they didn't fix it. So
Right.
it meant, about a year ago already, I had to switch off the Facebook ads because it was just burning money, and I wasn't sure which of them were actually bringing a return or not. I finally got that fixed, and now I'm in the process of creating new ads.
Right.
Then it was my Google ads. Okay, we were with the same. We went through a couple of agencies and then settled on a third agency, a small team
Sure.
that seemed to be doing well in the early days, but then again they were just sending reports, and they would send like a 4-page report on the month, and it was just jargon mixed with camouflage mixed with flattery, so I just didn't have the bandwidth to properly understand it. So my Google ads were definitely a problem. And then I recently found out my SEO was also a problem. Okay, now this is also something that a couple of other agencies have claimed to have got right, but
Right.
the SEO is it's since Google's made all its changes, that our SEO campaigns have never ever kept up with the changes, which means we're not showing up on searches. Um,
Okay.
Social media has taken a bit of a nosedive.
So I mean, it sounds like all of your marketing channels are, you're finding problem after
Suffering.
problem after problem.
Yeah.
What I want to do, I want to zoom out because I think it's this important. And this might be an underpinning reason as to why we're having problems. It might not. As a business, are you clear on where you're taking this business, what success looks like, what you're trying to build in terms of revenue, profitability? Could you describe what the business could look like in 3 or 5 years? Do you know that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's when times were good, we used to talk about how, like, oh my God, we're going to exit. We're going to build it up to X amount, and then
Sure.
give ourselves a nice exit. Um, and
But
I mean,
even
I
now,
don't.
as it stands right now, based on where you are, learn that the past is the past. So that that is what it is. It's if you had that blue ocean for X amount of time, then make hay when the sun's shining, right? You should have
Yeah,
leveraged that. If you did, great. If you didn't, then that opportunity's gone by the by.
yeah,
You're where you are now. So if you're you're doing a 500,000 run rate now. What
yeah,
do we want to be doing? Are you clear on where you want to be in a year?
yeah. I want to be at 1 million in a year, 1 million
So okay,
revenue a year.
right. And beyond telling me that now, have you written that down somewhere?
I've not written it down, no.
Yeah, so you need to write it down. So you need
Mm.
to write it down, and then what you need to do is, do you obviously understand your margin and stuff like that? So
Yeah,
all of the numbers, I think before, what so often is not the case, and I sound like a broken record, and I have to apologize, Darren, because I repeat myself so endlessly. But I think what you got to do is not before you delve into the marketing, you've got to look at the commercials on this. So
mm.
if you're 500,000 now, what does that look like in terms of how many products are you selling on an average month? What does the makeup of the business look like in terms of how much is direct to consumer? Are you doing any wholesale? Have you got any other strings to the bow, or is it all product sales on the website?
No, it's all product sales on the website.
Right.
That's
Do we know how
that.
many products we're selling on an average monthly basis?
Yeah, about 200.
So we're selling about 200. Okay, so hold on. So right. So I'm just going to write this down. We're going to run some numbers. So we're selling about 200 products a month on average. Do you know our AOV, our average order value?
Yeah, it's about £190.
Okay, right. This is interesting. So you're selling about, so on that, so let's have a look. So we're selling about 200 products and we're selling about 190 pound average value. So that would be, but the best part of 40K, some with 35, 40K a month, which on that sort of run rate would give you your 500,000 thing. So that sounds about right in terms of the makeup of the business. Fine.
Yeah.
So now if we skip ahead to a year and we turn around and go, Brian, we're running a £1 million business here. What does that look like? Are we planning to increase the AOV, or are we expecting that to drop? Is that growth going to come purely from just doubling the number of sales? Are we introducing new products? What are we planning to do?
No, yeah. So that's actually another reason we kind of fell behind, is that we didn't innovate. So
Okay.
and the reason why I didn't innovate the products is because, I was like, I knew that the product worked as it was, and all the innovations, I was convinced, I was like, these are gimmicks. I know they're gimmicks, because red light therapy is based on the light and the quality of the light that's coming out of the device. You don't need remote controls. You don't need apps. You don't need touch screens. So I for about 2 years, I refused to innovate, which is, I hold my hand up to that now. That was a mistake, because that was what I wanted. It's not what my client wanted. My clients wanted gimmicks and touchscreens and this and that. So now
they want the tech to go with it. Yeah,
we've now finally upgraded all our tech. We have a stunning product. It's being released in August. So I expect to increase our turnover, not necessarily by numbers of items sold, but by the average order value going up.
And what are we expecting? What are you forecasting that to be? Do you know?
I haven't forecasted that, because.
But what's that going to be? So in terms of this innovation and tech, have you done some R&D in terms of to improve the product? So do you know what you need to increase the AOV to?
I don't know that. No, I haven't calculated that.
Because that's, for me, that's why I would go is really, if we've put some R&D into it, what do we need to market the product at? And therefore off the back of that, what's going to be the AOV? And the reason this is important is because you need to know what you're aiming for, right? I liken it to, when was the last time you got in your car and started driving if you didn't have a destination in mind, right? When it comes to business, that's what we've got to do, is we've got to be clear on, when it comes to leads, when it comes to sales, what are we trying to achieve? How many do we need? And being woolly on that, or not being clear on it, is why so many marketing campaigns go wrong. And I hear it all the time is, the Facebook didn't work and the Google ads didn't work, and I tried that for 6 months and this didn't work, and why doesn't it work? And I say, well, what are you trying to achieve? Because if you're not clear on it, how can your agency, your freelancer, your contractor, your in-house person, how can they be clear on what they're trying to succeed? And every day, the phone rings in our office and it's like, I want Google ads, or I want Meta ads, or I want this, or I want creative. And I'm always like, hold up, we're not talking about that yet. Tell me about the business. Tell me where the business is today. Tell me what success looks like. Paint a picture for me so I can need the 1 year plan, the 3 year plan, the 5 year plan. Because from that, if we know what our average order value is, and equally for you, it's going to be lifetime value, because I'd imagine you buy something once, you then think, I want to buy a second product and a third product. So understanding the AOV, understanding your LTV, so your lifetime value, that will then dictate how many, and then knowing where you're trying to go to. So, okay, we want to do 1 million in sales. Great. And you can run scenarios. If the AOV stays circa the same, how many sales do we need? If you're going to need 400 plus sales. If we can increase the average order value by £50, then we're going to see a reduction in the total number of products we need to sell. Once that's the first part. We've got to start with this, and that's a bit of homework that you can go and just figure out and run the scenarios. Go, if we were to do 1 million and my AOV was this, what does it look like? You can work out those numbers and come up with 2 or 3 scenarios. That's what we would do. Beyond that, the next stage of this, what you've got to do is then look at how reliant is the business. Where are those 500,000 worth of sales coming from right now? Do you know that? Do you know how much is being attributed to Google? How much is being attributed to Meta? How much is coming via direct, social, email? Do you know that split or not?
Well, I mean, I could look on Shopify and give you those numbers, but Shopify, the issue that I have as well is how can I trust any of these platforms to be accurate? Because I know Shopify doesn't track everything.
No, so Shopify is going to give you really money in the till. So that's going to give you a picture of the whole. Depending on how you've got Shopify up, it's going to do a little bit of attribution.
Yeah.
When it comes, are you using GA4 to track? Are you using Google Analytics 4?
I've got it set up, but I don't look at it regularly.
Fine. But so what you're going to need to do, what we would recommend, what we would do, and if we were working with you, is we would say, look, you need to be showcased. You need to be whatever platforms we're using, whether it's Google, Meta, all of the different channels. You need to have them all set up and reporting in their own right. None of them are going to be on the nose accurate.
Yes.
That Meta is going to over-report and attribute more sales because it's impression-based. Google Ads is going to report on itself and make itself look good. All of these platforms, they all want to make themselves look good, right? Let's be frank.
Yes.
Now, that's fine. Also, we're in a data-driven world these days, which essentially in layman's terms means we're no longer in a last click. So the value, the credit for a sale is no longer attributed to solely that last click. I mean, you can force it to be done that way, but for the most part, the way attribution works now is you're not going to say, oh, that ad, it gets all of the credit for that sale. And that is a good thing because it's more reflective of how we as consumers search and use the internet and buy products these days. We're on multiple devices over long periods of time, et cetera, right? So, and also you add into that the whole privacy policy, privacy and data protection. And now we're in a first party cookie world, all of that stuff is why we're in a data-driven world. So to get a single source of truth is difficult. Every brand we work with has the same. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just go back to how it was 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, even though that data we got 5, 6 years ago, it wasn't any more accurate than it is now, but it felt more accurate. And the reason it felt more accurate is because you were getting what felt like a single source of truth. Now, we're not getting that, and it feels like we're missing something, but it's actually what we're getting is arguably more accurate than how it actually was. And that's just a perception piece that I speak to a lot of brands, and they feel. But what we need to be doing is making sure that, as you say, we start with the end in mind, and when we're tracking multiple feeds of data, because also you've got your social media, you're going to have your email marketing. Now, there's UTM parameters you can set up to track. There are various goals and ways you can set up things, and getting your tracking and your conversion ducks in a row is a very important piece of work. And it can be done. You need an expert in your corner. You need someone that knows what they're doing. And again, I'm happy to help on that front if you need it. But you need someone that knows their stuff so you can get your ducks set up in a row. And then you need to accept that you're going to have multiple data sources all feeding in, all essentially for the most part going to be over or under reporting. But what you can do is what we do is rather than worry about a specific sale, we look at trends. Because if you're seeing a lovely upward trend, then the world's a happy place, right? And that's really what you need to be looking at is the cumulative effect of all my marketing means my brand is growing, my business is growing. There's a great saying, I think I said it on one of the recent pods as well, is, and it's a really odd saying, but it's like the half my marketing is working and half isn't. But the trouble is I don't know which half, and that is in 2024, that is so incredibly still accurate. There's a lot of marketing we're doing. We're trying a lot of these platforms. Before we go any further, are you enjoying today's episode? If so, you'll love our other show, Tea Talks. They're short, informal chats where the Evergreen experts and I share actionable nuggets on all things paid media, creative, and digital strategy that we use daily when growing our clients' businesses. And best of all, much like this podcast, it's completely free. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, see the link in the description. Now, let's get back to it. What I'd be doing, if this was me, is I'd be going into GA4, or whatever tracking tool you're using, and I'd be looking historically over the last couple of years at where my traffic is coming from. And it's going to take a little bit of time. You're going to have to look at the GA4, GSC, Shopify, Google Ads data. I would take the time to collate the data and the traffic volumes and the sales volumes and the product performance on a per channel basis to try and get an understanding of just how reliant my brand is on what I would describe as the 4 pillars of digital marketing. And for those of you that have listened and watched the pod, you will have heard me talk about the backbone of digital marketing before. It is a very simple concept that I wrote and came up with more than a decade ago, and it's how I've been able to steer and help numerous SMEs and small businesses and brands to grow online. And that is by understanding that fundamentally, even though things change and evolve, there are only 4 ways you can grow your brand online. You can buy traffic in. So that's any kind of ad, anything you're buying in, you can buy that. It's generally quite measurable and quick off the mark to do. You've got the traffic that you're going to own. That's your direct, your repeat, your brand awareness. That's you building your brand, people becoming, knowing you, buying from you, repeating, returning. you've got the traffic that you nurture and the traffic that you're nurturing, which is your social media, your email, because you're building the know, like, and trust with that audience. And then the last one is the traffic you earn, which is your SEO. But we take the brand to one side. So what you buy, what you own, what you nurture, what you earn. Very simple concept. I've got video guides and a whole thing. I'll send it to you if you want to see it, Brian. But this is a very simple concept. And what I would be doing if I was you is I'd be overlaying my business performance onto that framework. And I'd be going, okay, how reliant? So I'd be wanting to know how much of my traffic is arriving direct? How reliant is my brand on sales that I'm making from Google? How reliant am I on for social, email, etc.? The reason that's important is when we're thinking about growing and we're thinking, right, we want to hit 1 million in this time next year. And we know, because we've done the math on the business, we know how many sales that looks like. We know how all of that. What we've then got to look at is, right, how do we go from where we are today to get that? How do we grow to hit that 1 million? Where's that growth going to come from? Which of those 4 pillars? Because you want to be able to look at and go, how much more can you impact the direct searches? Brand awareness is a gradual thing. Unless you do a huge PR campaign, brand awareness is going to be a slow burn. It's going to gradually build. It's going to be an organic thing. Yeah, it makes sense? Yeah. So then it becomes, okay, well, what else can we do? Then the question is really then questions. You go, right, social media, email marketing. Are we doing that? What could we be doing more? Stuff like that. I mean, are you doing these things? Are you with your organic social, your email? Have you got funnels and automations in place?
Yeah, we got plenty of email flows in place, absolutely. But funnels, from depending what you mean by funnel, I'm still working on that as well, because that's another thing where someone claims to be an expert and then their work is diabolical.
Yeah, I mean, look, it sounds to me like you need to get better at finding the right people to support you. But a funnel, fundamentally, a funnel is going to mean different things to different people. When I'm talking about funnel, I just think of from a customer perspective. Think the customer in your mind and think, what are the touch points they're going to have with my brand? The reality of it is the average customer is going to buy one of these things, is going to jump onto Google because they're going to do some search. They're going to visit the website. You are going to want to educate, inform. You're going to want to then stay top of mind with your retargeting. You are going to want to be in front of them across. Once they've raised their hand, they've shown an interest, I would want to be capturing them on social media to stay top of mind. That's how I would think of a funnel. Is I'd think of the average. I would look at my data from first click to when they buy. What's the average lead time? Is someone consider this? Is it within a couple of days, a week, 2 weeks, a month? What is it? And then I'd be wanting to build out a funnel to ensure that I can stay top of mind for that period of time.
Got it.
Yeah. But understanding that reliance per channel, that's important, because then you can look at, right, you can actually, it then goes from being, and this is what I see so often, is it goes from being not a pipe dream, but a kind of like, oh, we want to go from X revenue to Y revenue. That's great, and we need that, absolutely. But then what I want to know is, how on earth are we going to get there? Tell me exactly what each channel is going to look like. So, okay, you look and you go, well, we're doing 500K now. You need to understand, of that 500K, how much of that value, even if it's not accurate, and this is the thing, right? Even if the data is not exactly accurate, if you can build up a picture to go, of the 500, I don't know, 200 of that is coming in via Google Ads or via paid advertising, right? As best as you can calculate it. Then and only 50 is coming via this channel and another 100 over here. Understanding that, then when you can go, right, we want to double the size of the business. Is the plan just simply to double all of those channels? Is that going to happen? Is that realistic? Do you see what I mean? Because then you can see, it's like doing a SWOT analysis on your bit, because you can go, where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? Where are the opportunities? Where are where are the threats, if you think of it in the SWOT? But it's really, you can then see and go, okay, well, we've barely scratched the surface when it comes to our paid. Therefore, if we want to grow double the size of the business in a year, paid's going to be a great way of doing that. And if our paid data shows that we've had X amount of clicks and that's translated into Y amount of revenue, is there loads of impressions? Is there loads of opportunity that we haven't yet tapped into? And from there, I'm then thinking, well, what do I need to invest in to make that channel work in terms of, and then at a channel specific level, it then becomes, what's the ROAS? So what's the return on investment or the return on ad spend per channel? So for Google, okay, as a business, we're doing 500, 200 of that is reliant on Google. of the to generate that 200, I've had to invest. I'm making up the numbers here, but I've had to invest 100 to do 200. Therefore, I'm doubling my money. One, does that work for me as a business? Yes or no? If it does, can I afford to double it? Or no, it doesn't. I need to improve. I need to get it to a 3 times ROI. So for every pound I put in, I make 3. If that's the case, right, I need to look at Google now in isolation, because the bigger picture says that if on the 500 to 200, 40% of my business is reliant on Google Ads, I now need to get the Google Ads to deliver me a 3 times return to make me money. Do you see what I mean? And that's the process I go through on a per channel basis, because then I would look at organic, then I would look at your email, then I would look at your social, and then I would look at Meta. And that's how you take a more sort of scientific approach to mapping it out. And it goes from just being we want to double and go from X to Y, to actually, no, this is exactly how we're going to do it. Does that, yeah? Is that, it's logical, right? It's common sense, isn't it? It's like step by step. And if the agencies, if the agencies you've been working with have not been taking you through that process, they get different agencies, work with different people, because a lot of marketers love to operate in their lovely little marketing bubble. They don't have a commercial head. They don't think about the numbers. They just go, well, we'll run your ads. Yes, we can run social ads. We can run this type of ads. But actually, if you're not going to have, it's one of two things. You either need to work with an agency or someone in your corner, someone in-house that's going to have these kind of conversations that we're having. And so you can be clear on it, so that you can work with them, and together you figure it out. Or you need to go and figure it out and say, right, for Facebook to work for me, for Google to work for me, I know I need to get this amount of return. Therefore, that becomes the benchmark, the KPI. Then you go to an agency and you can say, I've already done the math. I've already worked out the numbers. This is what I need you to hit. I'll give you 90 days. See if you can do it.
Yeah.
That's how that's the process it needs to go through here, I think, because then it avoids I'm doing a bit of this and a bit of that, because it sounds like you've done a lot of different things. You've done Google, you've done SEO, you've done social, but how much of that has been done with a clear commercial plan in mind?
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing. Okay. Because what I want to do, I want to try and give you some actionable things that you can take away and actually just go and do in terms of this stuff right now. So you've worked with, are you still working with anyone at the minute? Have you got anyone that's in your corner that's you can go to after this recording and go, yeah, this is the stuff you need to do, go and execute, bang, bang, bang. Have you got that or not?
Yeah, so we got some new Google Ads guys about to start.
Okay.
And they've done a similar audit. Well, they've done an audit, and they've said similar stuff to what you've said. They've like, hey, you got a lot of holes in your campaigns. Yeah, there's a lot of things that aren't working and shouldn't be working, and things that have been flagged that they haven't fixed. So hopefully these guys, I said to them, look, we're going to start with the same monthly budget, and you're going to try and get a better ROI.
What is the monthly budget you're spending?
It's about $5,000 right now.
So you're spending about into ads.
Yes. Well, into Google Ads, yeah.
Into Google Ads. And then have you got a separate Meta budget you're doing any other platforms? Or is it just Google?
Well, yeah, Meta's been offline for a long time because there was a tracking problem and we changed websites and all that. So
right.
I'm just.
But are you doing retargeting on Meta?
Yeah.
You are doing retargeting on Meta?
Yeah. Just restarted again.
Fine. Make sure you're doing that, right? And make sure you're properly doing it. So you're loading in your customer lists, you're tracking, you got your pixels installed, your data sets are all set up correctly. Make sure take the time, get an expert to help you. Make sure you because if you're, like with everything, if you feel you crap in, you're going to get crap out. If you've got good, clean tracking, conversion data in, then it's going to work for you. But retargeting to keep the brand top of mind is an absolute no-brainer. I'd be trying a mix of still image, carousel, maybe motion graphics, maybe a little video. Mix up the creative. Have clear retarget. I would be split testing a retargeting campaign with an Advantage Plus campaign to just because Advantage Plus is retargeting, prospecting combined. So I would be having one of those with an addition, allowing that additional reach. I would be having an out and out retargeting campaign so that I know these are only going to go to people that have been on my website or engaged with my socials and so on. I would be having that. When it comes to Google, and I wouldn't be worrying, but with Meta, don't worry and focus on the return, because Meta, if you look at Meta in terms of what it's going to tell you, it's going to make it look like the best platform you've ever worked on. If you look at GA4, it's going to look like the worst. So don't worry about that. Just go, am I happy with the reach I'm getting? And you will see if you're getting good quality reach and you've got retargeting set up, you will feel that in the coffers in terms of what's coming in the till, right? When it comes to Google, then, let's take a 5K, you're spending 5K. Do the agency know what the level of return they need to be hitting with that?
No, they just need to make an improvement over the last 6 months. What the other
but that's where you're
agency
going wrong
did.
again. That's where you're going wrong. What is the return on the last 6 months?
I don't know. I haven't even, like I said to you, when they send me the reports, it's a load of hogwash. It's a load of, frankly, a load of bullshit. And I've said to them, I don't have time to read a 6-page email about every single little thing. So I'm not sure how.
No, I'm with you. I hear it a lot. And that's like it gets your goat, it gets mine as well. Yeah. But don't look, Brian. Don't make the same mistakes you've made in the past. Take the time. Don't rely. If even from this conversation, history has taught me from what you've said that you're going in, putting your faith and trust in an agency, go and work miracles for me, go and improve. That is not specific enough. Because you're going to go into that. I don't know who this agency is, and I wish them all the luck. But they're going to go into this, and you're going to be like, just improve. Or if they improve by 0.1%, right, they can technically then come back to you and go, well, we've improved. You're going, we're still miles off what I need, right? Yeah. So you got to set parameters with this. You got to go, look, if I'm going to give you 5K, the level of return I need is X and Y. You've got to work out what if you're investing 5K into these ads, what you need to know is how many sales do you need to make, what level of revenue do you need to generate to be able to afford to do that, afford to pay the agency to run it, and afford to be able to sell the product and actually make a profit at the end of the day. That's what I would do. And I would go, if I invest 5, then I can do that. Because then it's an incentive. It's incentivizing the agency. You say, well, look, if I give you 5 and you can get it to the X revenue, and you don't go from, where you are to suddenly you want to make a 10, 15 times ROAS, you've got to, scale it and build it slowly. But if you say, I'll do that, get it to that point, then we'll talk again about dropping out, increasing it to 7K and 10K. And that's exactly what we do with all of our clients is be really clear on the numbers. Oh man, just don't make the same mistake again.
So how are you supposed to choose a number then? Like what's a fair way to say, okay, I want this much in return?
So I think in the first instance, you've got to start with what is financially viable. So for example, right, if you gave me 5K and I said, right, well, I can generate you 6K's worth of sales, would that make sense to you? Could you afford to do that? No.
Yeah, probably not.
So if I said to you, okay, you give me 5 and I'll give you 10, therefore you're doubling your money, right? That looks good. You go, oh yeah, it's doubling my money. But actually, when you factor in your cost per acquisition, when you factor in the margin you're making on the sale, when you run the numbers, and that is, you're a business owner, you can run the numbers on this and go, actually, no. And so what you could then get to is that I can invest 5, but I need a minimum of 15 or a minimum of 20. If you said, well, for every 5K I invest, because you've got to factor in some management fee on top, right? Say that's $1,000, 1,500, whatever you're paying, I don't know. If you've got that, then, okay, if I did 20 in sales, by the time I factor in everything, then I factor in my margin, then the cost of sale, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I work it out. I'm making a 10, 15, 20% margin on the back of it. Financially, that can work. Anything below that doesn't work. Yeah, so that's how I would do it. You don't pluck numbers out of the sky on this. You've got to take a sort of very mathematical approach to it. Yeah. And that is, if you're not doing that, it gives an agency, anyone supporting you, the ability to basically mess you about, which is what's happening. You are being messed about. And it's that for me is, it frustrates me, to be honest. We can't have that continue. Yeah. Would you agree? We want to change this, right? If you've got a great product, which is, you were selling, these things hand over foot, and now you're losing market share. You've said you're innovating, so you're coming up with new products, which sounds like great. That's a big tick in a box. You are prepared to invest in buying customers. Brilliant. What we've got to understand is just how reliant are we on the customers we're buying versus those we're nurturing, that we're building a relationship with through social, email, organic, all of that good stuff. We need to understand that on a per channel basis. And then we need to be very clear to whoever is supporting you, whether in-house or agency, and go, this is the expectation. This is just know your numbers better.
Yeah.
The better you know your numbers on this, the more you'll grow this business, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's a challenge then.
I don't. Would you? But you know, I think it makes sense, right? That's what you've got to be. You know, you've got to be up for the challenge of that, because you've only got to do this stuff once. This is what's beautiful, Brian. You are not going to have to revisit this conversation every other week. Once you've nailed this once, you take the time. You know, get out of environment, go and work this stuff out. Get a spreadsheet, a pen and paper. You've only got to work this out once, and then that will be the catalyst for you being able to go, right, I can visualize, I can see how I'm going to hit 1 million. I can visualize how I'm going to hit 2 million, because I know what my KPIs, my internal KPIs, I know the numbers that I've got to hit. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, good man. Well, look, I want to move on to some of your challenges now. Some of the questions that you asked. Some of them we've sort of covered. So you said my opinion on a funnel structure. Again, there's softwares out there. There's loads of things that people have all sorts of ideas. Don't overcomplicate. There's a great analogy: KISS. Keep it simple, stupid, right? When you're thinking about a funnel, just put your customer avatar in your mind and think, right, if I was my average customer and I was going to buy one of these products, what is the journey I would go through, and how can I remain top of mind? So, and a great way to do this, if you've seen competitors flood the market, I would be using that as an opportunity. I would be visiting all of their websites and seeing which of them are retargeting me, what are they doing, what types of adverts are they running, what types of marketing messages they're putting out, what types of calls to action they're doing, how are they incentivizing the sale, when I add something to basket, how are they upselling, how are they cross-selling. I would be doing all of this stuff to understand what they're doing to maximize the market penetration, to maximize the profitability, and frankly, just get their brand out there. So I would be doing all of that, right? And then, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think
I've done this because I do pay a lot of attention to competitors.
Yeah.
And the frustrating thing, this is going to drive you mad, is that none of them are that good.
Well, then
none of them are that good.
Brian, I'm gonna have to we're gonna have to stop this part. I'm gonna have to come and give you a slap. Like, honestly,
I know.
because there's your opportunity, right? You know, it's when it comes to all of this stuff, understand your numbers is basics. When it comes to the funnel structure, just think, right, it's going to start with search. Why? Because there's search intent. If I am looking for one of these products, then that I've raised my hand. You want to be all over me from an ads perspective, from an organic perspective, etc. There's a whole piece here around content marketing. I would be all over content marketing from this. Little videos, explainer videos, what it is, why you need it, the benefits, all over this, right? Really, really, really niche. I would be creating a little red light therapy hub. I love a hub, but like a little red light therapy hub where you've got all the information. I'd be all over that like a rash and creating really good content. And then I'd be thinking, as you say, about I want to capture them when they're searching, and then I want to stay top of mind. And for that, you can use retargeting. I would be capturing their data, so you could start the nurturing. So I'd have pop up on the website. I'd be making absolutely sure that I am capturing their name, email, so I can start to say, hey, like, you're thinking about this product. Here's this. Did you know? Adding value, educating the customer. The education piece around this is massive. Yeah. And in doing that, that leads us on to your second question, which was about how do you sell high ticket items to a cold audience? You educate them, you nurture, you build know, like, and trust, right? So I would be making sure most 99 out of 100 people that are going to come to your website, if they're looking, that's great, they've raised their hand, but most people are going to leave without buying. What you want to do is capture their data so that you can educate them and go, this is what you need. This is what the product does. These are the benefits. These are the reasons why you might want to consider it. These are your options. This is this. This is that. So you could loads of content to educate and build that know, like, and trust with your target audience.
Just to give an example on that, just to butt in here.
Yeah.
We didn't know what it was. You told us what it was. I'm far more likely to buy now that I know and I understand the benefits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's exactly. And education is hugely powerful with this. And you've said it's a growing market. It's a relatively new market. It's one of the few products that, you're one of the few guests we've had on the pod where I go, I don't know what this thing is. I don't know the purpose of it. So there's clearly a lot. I don't know if I'm your target demographic, but there is clearly an education piece out here. I mean, our name as an agency is the Evergreen Agency, right? The name Evergreen comes from a concept that I had 20 years ago. Well, not my concept, I wish, but a concept that's been around for 20 years, which is around creating evergreen content. The premise of that is very simple. Have you heard it before? You know what evergreen content is?
Maybe, but you can.
Yeah, so evergreen content is the idea of create the best, most valuable, most informative, useful, educational, insightful content you can that is evergreen. What it means by that is everlasting. It means it's going to have value now and 10 years from now. Go back 15, 20 years to the early mid-2000s, very few websites were creating good quality content. It was just, they were spamming stuff out, and it was just, the internet was a very dark place. Creating good quality content where I would go to the brands I was working with, and because I was working for other people at the time, I was working in-house, and all I would be saying is, well, look, we're in business, but whatever the product is, the service is, why don't we just share our expertise? Why don't we just actually, and there was some apprehension. People go, that's our USP, that's our IP. Yeah. We can't possibly share our trade secrets. I'm like, believe me, nothing's a secret. And I was saying to them, well, look, why don't we just educate our customer? Why don't we just help our customer to make an informed decision about whatever it is? If we create the best version of that on the internet, then it's evergreen content, and Google will thank you for it. Now, of course, that has become a lot harder over the last 20 years to do, right? But I've still got content pieces that I've either created, written, or worked with clients that we created more than a decade ago that are still ranking at the top of Google for a whole topic, because Google perceives it as being the best quality piece of content on the internet. So for you, I would be looking, who owns this space from a content perspective? Who is writing the best content, creating the best videos, the most informative little snapshot, short form videos on this is what, this is why, this is how, this is where, when, and who. All of that, I would be putting that on your website. Yeah. I'd be creating a YouTube channel on, doing like unboxing and demonstrations of all the products, how to set them up, how to use them. I'd be doing all of that, because if you can place yourself as the authority in the space, well, then you're off to the races. And then you move into a lovely thing, which is where we try and take all of our brands, is you want to use Google Ads as the cherry on the cake, not the whole cake, right? You want to use Google Ads as it's one string, but it's not the main string to our bow. And if you've got building your brand, good solid content strategy, you then use Meta for retargeting. Oh my days, Brian, the opportunities here are endless, my friend.
Yeah, they are.
Do you know what I mean? And it's, and I think, that they're really the questions that you sort of asked, that hopefully I've answered them, but there's so much here. But I think there's a lot to get excited about from a marketing perspective. But I think first and foremost, it's just got to go back to the fundamentals, the business fundamentals, the business mechanics of where the business is today and the breakdown, and then plan a year and 3 years ahead. What does it look like? And then reverse engineer that. I would literally get like the whiteboard out and do that, because I'd quite enjoy that exercise. And I would map that and go, right, and then from there, you start to think about your channels, your marketing channels, and you build out from, as we've discussed on the pod. Yeah? Is it giving you some food for thought? Hopefully I haven't overwhelmed you with million and one ideas.
Well, I'm going to spend the rest of Friday evening crying. But,
I hope not. I do hope not. But you should be excited by this. I'm excited by it. It's not even my business.
Yeah. It's it's stuff I've heard before, and it's stuff that I've heard people say, I can do this for you, and then we go through the whole onboarding process, and then surprise, surprise, they don't do it.
Yeah, I'm not saying. I'm not for a minute suggesting we do it, and what I'm saying is everything I've said. I'm saying you do it. I'm not saying go to another agency and do it. I'm certainly not saying come to us. I'm saying you do this. You need to do your numbers. You need to understand your AOV and how that might change. You need to understand how many sales you need to make to do 1 million, 2 million and beyond. You need to understand your reliance per channel. And then you need to go to anyone you choose to work with and say, right, I want to do Google. Show me your track record. Get case studies, get testimonials, get examples. And then you need to go to them and say, hey, I need you to hit this revenue. And from an agency perspective, the clearer a client is, when the client comes to me and says, Aaron, this is what I want to do. I need to hit this. The clearer they are on the numbers, the happier it makes me, because I can look at it, and sometimes I have to look at it and go, no, look, you're being, you know, that's unachievable. It's not going to happen. Sometimes that absolutely has to, I have to have that conversation. But other times when they go, no, I can make this work if you can generate me X amount of leads or Y amount of sales. I can look at the data and I know where my North Star is. I know where I'm heading. Yeah. If you don't give them that, it becomes very woolly and you don't get results.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, look, Brian, I think we're gonna have to leave it there. I hopefully it's been useful and it's given you some food for thought. It's given you some ideas, and you don't go away crying, but actually you go away, you think about it. You can watch this back, you can listen to it back, and hopefully just take a few little nuggets there and go and deploy it, and give anyone that you do work with a bit of a kick up the backside and a real steer in terms of exactly what you expect, and then you'll get better results.
Yeah, I will do.
All right.
Awesome, and this has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, man. No, it's honestly my pleasure. I've loved having you on, so thank you so much for joining me. And all the best, all the luck in the world with it. Yeah, thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks, Ed.
Well, there you go. That was Brian. That was a good conversation. There a lot of ground covered there. And sometimes, I'll be honest, I have to be a little bit harsh. I have to just be a little bit, because I think this is a business that has genuinely, I think, has a lot of potential, but I think is one where he needs to know his numbers. He needs to know his numbers a lot better. And I think if he does that, he's going to... You can't grow a business if you don't know your numbers.
No, and I think the more he knows his numbers, the more he's going to see when people are messing him around.
Yeah, which the recurring theme of that was just being messed around. It's like, because you've got to be... You either need someone to come in and work with you to do that and go, this is the North Star, this is where we're headed, or you need to figure that out and then turn around and go, this is what, exactly what success looks like. This is where we're headed. This is what I need you to achieve, and that starts, as I said, with the business, and then you take it into the marketing, not the marketing first. And I think a big part of this is we're going to go straight into Google. We're going to go straight into Meta. We're going straight into this.
Yeah.
Actually stop, think about the business first. There you go. So a bit of a business lesson there as much as marketing, but another great example of a brand with bags of potential, but taking the wrong advice and not thinking about things in the most logical way. And what did it do? Time and time again, it ends up preventing businesses from really scaling. Hope you enjoyed this one. I've certainly had a lot of fun, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. All the best. Take care. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see more, well, on the left side of the screen, you'll find a video that YouTube has hand-picked just for you. On the right, you'll find our latest video hot off the press. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe, and hit that notification button. Thanks for watching.